and include him in the conversation.
I just wanted to let you know I might have to leave early because I have a Democratic Party of Contra Costa County meeting.
That's totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go till about 11:45. Hi, Ankur.
Hello.
I sent you my personal link, so now you are me. So
I think you can change your name in there, right? If you click on
Well, I think
rename.
maybe I'll try on Kathy for a little while. Rename, there it is.
Yeah, are you able to rename yourself or?
Yeah. Well,
All right, perfect.
Hit enter and.
Okay, so we're also live on Facebook. I just want to say welcome to everybody. This is actually our first community conversation for 2022. I'm really glad to be back and, connected with everybody. Everybody's enjoyed the winter. We had a hiccup with Omicron and, things went back to lockdown but it looks like spring is coming and hopefully we have the herd immunity and people are starting to meet in person again. So I'm, really excited to have these community conversations and today invite both Kathy and Ankur to talk about a topic, which is I've been having multiple conversations with my friends, with people in the community about they want to learn more, they want to hear what's going on, how can they get more educated and really spread the word. So I just want to start off with maybe a round of introduction for anybody who's here on the call today. Brody, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Brody Hilp, and I'm a member of the Democratic Party of Contra Costa County and an assembly district from 16 delegate to the California Democratic Party. But I'm mainly here because I'm the president of the San Ramon Valley Democratic Club. We mainly have members from Danville and San Ramon, and we have speakers mainly from like UC Berkeley professors about interesting ideas and our local legislators. And I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you for joining. Dave, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I have a less impressive resume, but yeah, I'm Dave Owens. I live here in San Ramon. I'm chair of the Arts Advisory Committee and then also on the board of the Arts Foundation.
Oh.
Eva, you don't have to come on camera, but would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Eva, and I'm actually in public at Club Sport right now in their dining area. I'm a resident of San Ramon, been here for about 10 years, and I basically just follow Sabina around and help her with wherever she needs me. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And thank you, for being part of my core communications team. Brody was just talking about, the newsletter and some of the communication. As I said, it's not just me. I have a whole team behind who's helping bring this communication. So thank you so much for joining. Ankur, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am a doctoral candidate at the California Institute of Integral Studies. My experience is of 10 years of teaching in the inner city, where I was a restorative justice coordinator as well. So I have a big interest in improving school community, school culture, and my dissertation and research is on the effects of mindfulness as a trauma intervention for kids. So that's the lens that I'll be coming from today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kathy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Sabina, and thank you for setting up this important community forum today to talk about mental health. I am currently the executive director for Discovery Counseling Center of the San Ramon Valley, a nonprofit that has been in operation providing support to the community for 50 years, celebrated our 50th anniversary this summer. And Discovery Counseling Center is an amazing organization with two focuses. One is that we are able to provide services to our community that are affordable. We offer our services on a sliding scale, so anyone can get help when they need it and not be turned away because of an inability to pay full fees. So we're very proud of that. But we're also very proud of the fact that we are a training agency. So we have, we train the next generation of psychologists like Ankur and masters MFTs, Masters in Family Therapy, before they can sit for licensing exams, they need 3,000 hours of clinical supervision, and our staff provides that supervision. So we work with the San Ramon Valley Unified School District, providing counseling support in every school in the district for 2 days a week. Ankur is at Dougherty Valley High School this year, and we're very proud of the work that he's doing. We have a total of about 44 associates like Ankur working with us, and it's a very exciting place to be because we get to work with amazing people like Ankur. And I just said to Sabina, being the executive director of this organization has been a culmination of my career. It's just an incredible resource that we have in the community, and we're supported, and we can offer our services on a sliding scale because of the work of about 100 volunteers at the thrift station in Danville, where our community comes together to donate their gently used goods and come around to the front and buy them buy someone else's things from that have just been donated. And it's operated entirely by volunteers and who create a community of support around mental health. So it's a unique model I haven't seen replicated in any other community, and we're very, very proud to bring these services to the San Ramon Valley. We have our offices in Danville, our main offices in Danville, but we also have an office in Dougherty Station in San Ramon, providing easy access to mental health services. And of course, now some of our clients and therapists are using telehealth much more extensively, and that has also increased access to mental health services. People are able to get to their computers much more easily than they can get to an office. So we're happy about the increase in availability for mental health services. But that being said, and the reason for this conversation is the need is increasing tremendously too. And the resources, we get to a point where we are impacted and are not able to serve everyone we want to. So again, I could go back to the fact that we're training the next generation, and the need for mental health providers is just increasing daily. And we're happy to be able to be launching the next generation into the field.
Thank you so much for sharing that and all the details. I see Mike, Jay, and Zarina have joined as well. If they would like to introduce themselves, please do. You don't have to come on video, or if you want to, you're welcome to introduce yourself. Zarina, would you like to introduce yourself? Or all right, or Jay or Mike. And if not, we'll just move the conversation. I think Zarina's having a hard time with the mute button.
Hi, this is Jay. I'm a physician in the community, and I'm interested. This came as an email, and I'm interested in knowing more about, because we're seeing a lot of anxiety and frankly undetectable psychological problems. But then as you start talking to patients, these come up all the time, and I'm generally being asked about community resources. So when this came up, I'm more curious to know about what kind of community resources we have for our younger population in order to address some of the underlying mental health disorders.
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. And what is your background? What is your specialty, or how are you seeing these?
I do primary care and sports medicine. Those are my two areas of specialty.
Got it. Well, thank you. We're glad to have you.
Hi, I figured out my issue with the laptop. Anyways, hi, I'm Zarina, and I'm a mom of 4 children, and I have a small business. And I just wanted to say that I've noticed an increase of mental health help. And they actually did a workshop in Dougherty Valley High School last week. And I was just really happy to see that, because I think the pandemic had affected quite a bit of children in different ways. and I have, since I have 4 kids, I see how it affected individuals differently, and I'm hoping that they continue to do this on a regular basis, and in all. So this was in the high school, but to do it for I don't know what's happening in elementary because I've now out of that, but middle school as well. So I just wanted to say that, just that pretty much. So just really happy to see that we are focusing on mental health because I think it has affected everyone in different ways. So that's it.
Thank you for sharing. So maybe a question to Ankur. Can you share a little bit about what resources are available at our high schools or maybe elementary schools through the school district? And maybe Kathy can add on to that as well.
As Kathy mentioned, I'm at Dougherty Valley High School at the moment, and Zarina, I think you're referring to the Breaking Down the Walls event that just happened at Dougherty Valley, which was a really touching and sweet thing where they affected maybe 250 to 300 kids 4 days in a row, and it had a palpable effect on the school culture in those days. So I operate out of the Wellness Center in Dougherty Valley, and the Wellness Center is a place where kids can, they can leave the classroom for 15 minutes at a time, no questions asked. They come to the Wellness Center, we give them a pass back. And it's an opportunity when the pressure starts to build up, they have a place to kind of decompress. We're currently working on our protocol in the Wellness Center, so those 15 minutes are targeted therapeutic interventions rather than just a timeout kind of situation. We have a staff of school counselors, we have a social worker, I'm the skip intern, we have another intern, so it's a full staff. We all see clients from the time we get there in the morning to the time we leave. To be honest, the need is bigger than what we can provide, which is why I'm really interested in developing social emotional learning capacity in the school. So the work is being spread everywhere. We also have a monthly mindfulness training. It's 30 minutes. I conduct that training myself. And it's a series of different tools that kids can use to down-regulate their nervous system in times of high anxiety, depression, which are, essentially internalizing disorders, which means that the culture of Dougherty Valley on the surface looks like it is very calm and everybody's doing really well. But as we know about internalizing disorders, like Dr. Harihan said, you can't always see these things. So, so we are just trying to do more and more to, well, I'm using mindfulness, but other people are using different approaches to give kids options to take mental health breaks as needed. Kathy,
Thank you so much.
Yeah. That was a great summary of your work at Dougherty Valley High School and being part of that wellness team. And every high school in the San Ramon Valley has a wellness center. And I think that there is commonality among all of them, but also different ways of approaching providing that mental health support to students. I know the school district is very committed to social and emotional wellness, and they have hired more mental health therapists over the last year. And now there's someone at every elementary school as well as middle schools and high schools. So, and as well as Ankur says, our skip interns are the ones who come through Discovery Counseling Center, School Counseling and Intervention Program. Counselors are available 2 days a week in every elementary school and every middle school, as well as every high school. And that provides a ready, easy access for students to get help in their familiar school settings, which again, helps remove one of the barriers to getting the help that they need. But as Ankur mentioned, it's not enough, because the need is so great right now. Our resources are feeling strained for sure. And so I think what Ankur is talking about, teaching children how, and students how to, and all of us, how to deal with these stresses, either through meditation, yoga, mindfulness, being part of nature, using different techniques that are not necessarily therapy, but can help us all deregulate the stress and anxiety that we're feeling because of made worse by this pandemic.
Yeah, I just want to add on one more thing. There's been an uptick in suicidal ideation, which is, internalizing disorders when they go to the extreme. And also we provide kids with just some resources like hotline to call, websites where they can go and they can learn about the difference, between, suicidal ideation with intent, without intent, just the severity of it. And, that I think is especially alarming between there's been a few cases of successful attempts and there's been a lot of suicidal ideation. So I just want to emphasize the sense of urgency in spreading these programs to the entire student body. The old adage comes to mind, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life, right? So that's what we're trying to do with our kids is give them the tools so they can help themselves, help each other, create groups, create community, and then the work goes beyond just one person meeting one person for an hour.
And to that point too, these are conversations that we need to have as a community. So those of us who are experiencing mental health emergencies or concerns don't feel isolated, and that there is a community around mental health, and we talk about it, because I think that becomes the greatest danger, is that when people internalize what's going on and don't articulate and don't reach out for help, either to a peer or to a loved one or to a teacher or a counselor, that's when we have very serious issues and concerns.
Yeah. And Ankur, if you could share some of those resources with me, probably post this call as well. I would love to post them and, get the word out as well. I certainly know what you're talking about. I've had several friends and some of my friends' kids as well deal with that, like what you're calling suicide ideation, and it's scary. But you're right, it has become, it's been heightened by the pandemic. I think it was maybe just suppressed before then, and the pandemic heightened that. So another question I have, Kathy, for you around the Discovery Counseling Center. You mentioned it's existed for 50 years now. The one in Dougherty Valley is fairly new. What kind of resources are available for the one in Dougherty Valley and for the local community in San Ramon? And how can people reach those resources?
So basically the resources we have available in San Ramon and Danville are therapy sessions. So they are the ability to meet with a therapist one-on-one. And we have a therapist who works out of our San Ramon office. But when people call for help from Discovery, we try and match them up with a therapist who is best suited to work with the issues that they're presenting. And so that may not be the therapist whose office is centered in Dougherty Station. On the other hand, the fact that we have a presence there and the city knows about it, it helps us reach the Dougherty Valley communities, specifically in the San Ramon community.
And besides that, what other resources are available? I know you are involved at the county level as well, and very involved with how we're embracing and changing how we deal with mental health. So would you like to share some of the things that are happening at the county level as well, and how that's being?
Yeah, it's actually quite exciting what is going on at the county level. They've started a program called Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere. And that the goal is, if anyone is having any kind of mental health crisis or emergency, they can get the help that they need anywhere, anytime, any place. And it's an ambitious program. I sat on the Measure X Community Advisory Board, which was responsible for allocating over $100 million in sales tax money and new sales tax that we have all supported. And the top priority of that community advisory group unanimously was to support this Anyone, Anywhere, Any Place program. So we're very excited about the work that will be done. there will be, if someone is going through a crisis, our current model is that police respond. In this instance, there will be a mental health professional associated with those calls, so that there will be a triage done right away, and that they are developing options besides taking people to the county hospital for evaluation. They'll be able to evaluate in other ways and have other resources available throughout the county, as sobering centers, a respite center. And so it's going to be a large and great program. It's just starting, so we're not seeing any results yet, but we have done some piloting on that program, and they were very pleased and know that there's a lot of promise with this program. On a more local level, San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District is partnering with San Ramon Police Department to have the fire department be involved in any mental health emergency calls, so that if there's no threat of violence, the fire department will go to a call, and they have got the calls triaged, so that they will make the call. The newest Academy of Firefighters has now been trained on mental health interventions. So they will be there, and they can do evaluation. They'll also be connected with the resources at the county and can do in live time. And I'm hoping by video, they can assess together the status of the person who has called for a mental health emergency. So I think that we'll feel the impact locally on that very, very quickly, and that people are not intimidated by firefighters the way they may be by a police response. And having the police come to your home is a very traumatic experience for a lot of people. And to have firefighters and EMTs and paramedics be that first responder, I think will take some of the anxiety away from those 5150s, not only for the person who's in the crisis, but for their family and loved ones also. So that program, I think, is ready to launch this spring. So, and Sabina, you may, I'm sure, know about it too, and have more details about when they hope to launch, but I think it's very soon. But to the larger point, everyone, I mean, that we're talking to is concerned about mental health and concerned about how do we prevent things from getting to this emergency situation where people have no resource but to call 911. And that's what we're hoping that some of the programs that Ankur has talked about, having these community conversations where we raise the level of awareness so that we are not afraid to talk about mental health. We're not afraid to admit that we're in the midst of anxiety or depression or having substance abuse issues related to our anxiety and depression. We need to talk about this so that people don't feel shame or stigma associated with what has become a very widespread problem, and it only becomes worse if it's not addressed and discussed. So I'm very encouraged by the programs that are happening countywide as well as those that are happening locally.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Kathy. And I feel very proud that, San Ramon Fire and San Ramon PD are working together to really bring this program forward. And it's been a year in the making, and it's ready to launch now. So I think our community will see the benefits. Again, it came to us during the pandemic when the chief brought to us that he's seeing more and more 5150s. He's seeing more children, young children, more than he's ever seen before. And then you were hearing from parents and everything. So I think for our departments to recognize that and put a program together, I really appreciated that. I think Dr. J has raised his hand and has a question. And then I know Brody has a question in the chat. So let's start with Dr. J.
Yeah, you can just call me Jay. It's okay. I'm not a doctor here.
All right.
Hey, thank you guys for doing this. I think it's an invaluable resource that we have in our community. My question to Kathy is, you mentioned this program. Now, is this available for just the school age children, or is this pretty much open to everybody, adults including? And secondly, how do they approach you, or what's the first step? Let's say somebody is out there, who wants to get involved with, who's going through anxiety, going through depression, wants to be seek some counseling. What's the first step? Do they just come in, or do they use their insurance? How does that work?
That's a great question, Jay. We do have two sets of programs. One is access to the schools through our school counseling and intervention program, which mostly those are school referrals, but parents can talk to teachers and see if they can get a referral to our staff who are in the schools. But for the general public, we see every age in our clinic in Danville and in our office in San Ramon. So the first step is to give us a call at 925-837-0505 and to say that you'd like to do an intake interview. So that sets the process in motion. Then someone will call them back and do an assessment over the phone about what they need and get some background information. And then we go from there. And if we have staff available, which we used to have on a regular basis, but and we're building up our staff again, we will connect them with a therapist who will call them to set up their first appointment. And we do take some insurance, but mostly we are doing things on a sliding scale. So if people don't have insurance, or if they want to go through their insurance, they can go out of network, and we submit all the paperwork that they need to go out of network. As I say, not all of our therapists are covered by all insurance panels, so it's mostly on a sliding scale or out of network for insurance companies.
Super, fantastic. Thank you for that response, and thank you for everything that you're doing. My last comment would be that, you mentioned something about a pandemic. That's huge. That's absolutely true. And what we are seeing out there may not be the entire iceberg at this point. We might just be looking at the tip at this point. We'll have to see how things pan out. But thank you for everything you're doing.
Welcome, Jay. And you probably know, and I think Ankur too, there's a lot of literature around us as a country as the world having been through a collective trauma. And with trauma, sometimes you don't know when it's going to show up again. So yes.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
So question in the chat, has any of the stress or anxiety of students due to being a minority student? And is there an effort to put mental health as part of the curriculum of our students? Ankur, have you seen any of that?
I can jump in with that one. So interestingly, I think these two questions are somewhat related. What I've noticed at Dougherty, in terms of the internalizing stuff, anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, a lot of that I've seen in the Asian community in an effort to achieve academic excellence. So the thing is that the pandemic, I think, exacerbated the situation because the remote learning process, I think, made everybody feel a little bit of anxiety about their college aspirations or about just if they were on track academically. The increase in social isolation as a result has been a big problem. And yeah, I mean, I think if the district is really serious about social emotional learning, then the only way is to embed it into the curriculum. My background is in restorative justice practices, where we utilize things like community circles in a classroom to teach curriculum. So, I think that there's a big pushback in schools, especially in high achieving schools, where the staff doesn't necessarily want to incorporate these things because they feel it'll come at the cost of academic rigor. And we have to figure out a way to not compromise that academic rigor, which is so important to our community and Dougherty Valley, which is, in my belief is that it's one of the best high schools in, the Bay Area, maybe even the state. So we have to find a way to get the buy-in from the staff to say social emotional learning will not derail us from this track that we're on. And it is a context and not more content for teachers to take on. So, I mean, these are my anecdotal experiences. I just want to say it's hard to make broad generalizations about, communities of color versus not. But I would say that, socioeconomic status is a factor, regardless of color, because as we know during the pandemic, if families have the ability to, let's say, take a vacation, or they have a big house where people can run in the backyard versus an apartment where you have 4 or 5 people in a small place, these things matter. These are protective factors that support, bolster mental health, or the lack of these protective factors can quickly deteriorate mental health. And this is where the pandemic comes in, is because a lot of these communities, the lower socioeconomic level communities, school is a place for them to stretch out, so to speak. It's meals, it's food, it's childcare, it's a place for social interaction. And I think the loss of that over a year and a half has had a detrimental effect on our kids. Kathy talked about collective trauma, which I think is true, but I want to add on to that and say in the situation with kids, it's developmental trauma. And that kind of trauma can be long lasting, and it needs to be addressed right away, because, as we are adults, we're already kind of formed in a way. To have that trauma in the developmental stages added on with people who have college aspirations that feel like they're not going to reach their aspirations, it's sort of become a crisis in the school.
Thank you for answering that. I think Brody has a question. She has her hand raised.
Yes, when I was putting in chat about any effort to put mental health as part of the curriculum, I was thinking of students that feel anxiety or slight depression. In order to get hooked in, they have to approach their teacher to tell them what's happening. And I thought maybe if there was like a mental health curriculum just for a couple of days and explain to the students what anxiety and depression is in not too serious of a way, and then explain how therapy can help and it's not threatening. And then somehow maybe the teacher could say, okay, if you have, everybody put in their little piece of paper and say whether you want this or not, in order to make it easier for students who are feeling anxiety and stress as it is to be able to come up and approach their teacher so that they can get hooked in to the counseling center.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, and I do think that there are courses like I'm not exactly sure what AVID is or leadership is, what they do, but I believe that some of these courses are geared towards those things. And yeah, I think it's a great idea to put in mental health into the curriculum. It becomes difficult, like I said, when in these rigorous courses where they have their syllabus planned to the day, to the week, to the month, for the year, where to take some time off for these things, which makes it challenging. But yeah, I think there's enough space in the schedule for us to also put in this curriculum.
Is the school board on board with that, as far as, because they're the ones who help set the curriculum, right? Do you know how the school board feels about that?
I think Kathy might know more about that than me.
No, they're extremely supportive of social and emotional wellness and how to bring it to the schools. It's one of the pillars of their strategic planning right now. So they're looking at everything and putting a lot of resources into social emotional wellness. I haven't heard of anything as you've suggested, Brody, but I think that could be something that doesn't even need to be a class, but could just be something for people to have a day. Or it sounds like last week at Dougherty Valley High School was centered around mental health. So I would hope that there could be occasions on school campuses when students would have that general awareness about what it means to have anxiety or depression. And I think there is a lot of support from the school board, as well as the superintendent of schools, who was, and many of you may know, was trained as a therapist. So he's a marriage and family, was a licensed therapist early in his career. So he understands the value of the work around mental health.
That's really great to hear. So I want to change the topic over to other demographics as well. I just want to start talking about women and how, that group has also, and a lot of times silently suffered with mental health because, half our community, I think when I was at least a PTA mom, half the moms were stay at home, half the moms were working. The ones that were stay at home were the ones that were giving a lot back to the community as well. And everything changed for them too. And I've been hearing more from women, and they're taking care of their families, but they're also dealing with their issues. And what have you seen there, and what kind of support is available for women particularly?
Well, at Discovery, we have a group called Hope Group, and it is specifically for women who are going through periods of transition. And it is a process group, so the women work with each other as well as with a therapist. And it's a great resource for just what you're talking about, that isolation and pressure and stress that women feel more acutely because they're trying to hold their family together. And the other issue that's somewhat related to that, again, we've seen a huge increase in relationship problems and difficulties. People are facing what may have been something that they could walk away from, but in the pandemic, it was right there. And so we're seeing a lot of increase in numbers of people who want to come in and work on their relationships because they have come to a point of real tension in the family. We also have another group for girls, a she-they group. We have one for middle school students as well as high school girls who want to talk about, and again, in a process group, about the issues that they're facing around identifying as a woman or in a gender questioning way too. So that's another issue that we're dealing with a lot. We see in the schools are students who are questioning their sexual identities, questioning their gender identity, and need support for that. And that's a very, very difficult area to talk about in a lot of schools and a lot of families. And those students need tremendous support. And Ankur, you could probably speak to that too, and what you're seeing in Dougherty Valley High School.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, my caseload is pretty much split 50-50 males and females. And I would say that there are some factors, and I have done some work with families. But in my experience, to be completely truthful, I'm finding there to be kind of an even distribution of internalizing and externalizing disorders across males and females. With that said, there is a cultural component here where, the role that a woman has in a collectivistic family structure is, it does decrease the amount of expression, so what we're finding is in my work, when I'm increasing communication with kids and the mom and helping them to bring their voice into the family system, the family constellation, it has made some really positive therapeutic progress. So I can say I agree with this. It's just not specifically what I work with.
And what about men, right? Men are generally, I'm not generalizing it, but and Dave or Mike or Jay or even Ankur can speak to it, but there's this whole concept of, not showing your emotion or just, dealing with it kind of attitude sometimes as well. And I know culturally there's more of that as well. Anything you can share, regarding that, Kathy, where, again, where can they seek services and what's available?
I think you're right. I mean, just when we look at our client, who our clients are, probably we have 40% who are men and 60% women. I think women are more apt to reach out for help, and men, as you point out, are somewhat reluctant. But I think that could be shifting too. I think with the younger generation, they are more apt to talk and more apt to reach out. And I take consolation in the fact that Ankur has a 50-50 mix in his clients, because I think that the next generation is so much more open to mental health and to getting the support that they need. And those traditional male barriers, or, you know, tough it out, I think those are going away. At least that's my take on it. And I think that having athletes and male role models talk about mental health is a huge piece of that too. That someone you can identify with, and someone you think is, you know, has it all, and still has the ability to talk about their mental health, and to normalize depression or anxiety to a certain extent, that you need to normalize the fact that you can reach out for treatment, and you can reach out for help, and that there is help, and you don't have to just bottle it up. So I commend all those athletes and professional organizations that have put mental health more to the forefront than previously.
Yeah, and you're right. Just talking about it and, you know, sharing what people have been through. I think especially on the sports level, where you know, see both men and women embrace it, take a break from it, has, I think, really made the conversation much easier. So lastly, I want to talk about seniors, and you know, again, that's a big population that probably experienced more isolation than most of the groups, is because of the pandemic. They were, you know, I at least saw they were more isolated. There were a lot of seniors that were just not leaving their houses. The city was providing a lot of support by delivering groceries and things like that as well. But how, you know, what support services specifically might be available for seniors, and, you know, where can through the senior centers and things like that?
Well, I think you're right. That is a very much of a concern, that seniors still continue to be isolated. I had a conversation yesterday with the San Ramon Director of Parks and Recreation, Kathy Hyman, and we talked about that. And there are supports. I mean, Discovery Counseling Center has a senior group of women who meet regularly and provide that support to each other. But it's larger than that. And I think that this is kind of a community issue. And that's what we were talking to Kathy about, is how do we inspire each other to reach out to those seniors in our communities, and knock on doors, and get the community, get people connected to each other again. And you know, I think big and think of a citywide campaign where everyone is encouraged to reach out to their neighbor and to someone they haven't seen for a while, and say, how are you? And I'm worried about you, or I'm concerned, or do you want to go for a walk? And just help people get out of their homes, but still feel safe about being with other people. So I think it's something we need to address as a community.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Community building is probably the biggest support, right? Being able to check on each other, having these, you know, we have in our little court a neighborhood group, whether it's through text, and I'm grateful for my neighbor who's, you know, went and collected everybody's phone number during the pandemic and made sure we were regularly group texting each other to find out everybody was good. So I think the more we focus on community building is also going to be a support system for everyone. So we have maybe a couple of minutes to wrap this up. You know, Kathy or Ankur, anything else you would like to share?
I'm just to thank you for having this conversation, and to let people know that there are resources out there, whether it's at Discovery Counseling Center, or through a private physician or private therapists, or larger support groups, that the help is there, and we can provide resources that you can post on your Facebook page, Sabina, that people can access. But I think if we can have people take away a message from today, it's, you're not alone in this. This is something that affects every family in some way. And please reach out to someone you know or love, or be aware of someone in your family or in your community who may need a gentle hand and may need support. So we need to take care of each other.
Yeah, and I also want to add on just the importance of advocacy when it comes to these matters. I always tell the parents of the kids that I work with that they have a lot of power in creating change and regulations in the school district. So, placing an equal importance on mental health along with academic rigor, when these things are grassroots efforts, then it puts pressure on the administration to hire experts in restorative justice, hire experts in social emotional learning, and invest their money and invest their time into these matters that can be very preventative for the problems that we're trying to tackle. So we're taking a proactive approach as opposed to a reactive approach.
Thank you so much. This conversation has been really even helpful for myself, and I've learned a lot. And I'm sure everybody who's on this call and everybody who's watching has a lot of interest in finding out more. And one person at a time, we're hopefully spreading the message. I do want to mention, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a quick comment. Thank you for everything that you're doing. But, what I've noticed in my practice as a physician is, especially with you touched upon seniors, they come with, there's a lot of underlying mental health problems, but they don't come with that. It's unrecognized. They're in the don't know zone where they don't know that they have a problem. So they come in with back pain or knee pain or one of these headaches and chronic pains, and they don't get better. And then when I keep talking to them, then all these underlying depression or anxiety comes up. So it's really important to keep our antennas up and watch for this. And definitely, if you provide community resources, it'll provide a platform for them to open up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, and I'm certainly going to take this back to staff as well. I know Kathy is already having those conversations, but how can we use our communication resources to the city to bring more attention to where people can find these resources, how they can have access, because that's one of the most important things as well, how to find these resources. I just want to wrap up with some of the community fun stuff which is happening in San Ramon. I think it's important, now that we are opening up and getting together, that people come out and enjoy the community. A happy Lunar New Year. Tomorrow, City Center is hosting a Lunar New Year event, and the community is invited to it at 11 a.m. So if you're around and would like to do something out in the open in San Ramon, do join us for that. Dave, perhaps you can talk about the Foreign Film Festival and give a little shout out to that program and how people can attend that.
Yeah, sure. So it's been 2 years with COVID, but the Friday Foreign Film Series is returning next week. It is being hosted by the San Ramon Arts Foundation, which I'm a board member. Sabina is also a board member. So the first film that we're doing next Friday at 7 p.m. is Pain and Glory by the Spanish director Pedro Almodovar. Great director. We're looking forward to it. If you want to buy tickets, you can go to sanramonperformingarts.com. If you want to buy all 5 movies, you actually get a little bit of a discount. So if you're interested, do that. You can also just email me. I think dowens@sanramonarts.org. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And I will be going, I have an extra ticket if anybody would like to join me with that. And support, and it also supports our art foundation. So our goal, as part of the Arts Foundation is also how do we use arts to really bring the community together, whether it's through the Foreign Film Festival, whether it's some of the artwork that is being installed throughout the community, whether it's through events that we're hosting. And I'm excited to share that the Art and Wind Festival is coming back as well. So, finally we're getting the community back together. I know the concert series in the summer has been hugely popular, as well as people have wanted to come out and do something in the community. So all the events are posted on the website as well. Do join. And again, thank you so much, both Kathy, Ankur, and everybody who made time to join this conversation. Much appreciated. And it is also going to be on our Facebook page if people want to watch the recording later as well. So with that, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the Saturday, and I will see you soon. Thanks. Bye.